Once, someone I knew told me this story. When I was studying in Moscow, I lived near a woman who people didn't think highly of. Her name was Teresa, and she was from Poland. She was tall and strong, with thick, dark eyebrows and a big, rough face. Her eyes were dark and mean-looking, and she had a deep voice like a man. She walked like a rough driver and was very strong. I lived on the top floor, and her room was across from mine. I always made sure to keep my door closed when I knew she was home. But that didn't happen very often. Sometimes I saw her in the hallway or outside, and she would smile at me with a smile that seemed sneaky and mean. Sometimes I saw her drunk, with blurry eyes, messy hair, and an ugly grin. She would say hello to me in a silly way that made me dislike her even more. I wanted to move to a different room to avoid seeing her, but my room was nice, and I liked the view from the window. It was quiet outside too, so I stayed. One morning, I was lying on my bed, trying to think of an excuse to skip class, when Teresa knocked on my door. "Hello, Mr. Student," she said in her deep voice. "What do you want?" I asked. Her face looked worried and scared, which was strange for her. "Sir, I need to ask you for a favor. Can you help me?" I stayed quiet and thought to myself, "Oh dear. Be brave, me. I need to send a letter home," she said softly. "Okay," I thought. I got up, sat at my desk, and said, "Come here, sit down, and tell me what to write." She sat down carefully and looked at me with guilt in her eyes. "Who do you want to write to?" I asked. 135. To Bolesław Kaszput, in Swietziana, on the Warsaw Road, she said. "All right, go ahead," I said. "My dear Boles, my darling, my loyal love. May God protect you. Why haven't you written to your sad Teresa for so long?" I almost couldn't stop myself from laughing. A sad little dove. A bird over 5 feet tall, with hands as heavy as rocks, and a face as dark as if it never washed. Holding back my laughter, I asked, "Who is this Boles?" "Boles, Mr. Student," she said, as if correcting me, "his Boles, my boyfriend." "Boyfriend!" I exclaimed. "Why are you so surprised, sir?" "Can't a girl have a boyfriend?" she asked. "She? A girl? Oh, why not?" I said. "Anything is possible." "Has he been your boyfriend for long?" 6 years. "Oh, wow." I thought. "Well, let's write your letter." Honestly, I would have rather been in Boles' shoes if Teresa wasn't the one writing to him. "Thank you very much, sir, for your help," said Teresa to me, with a little bow. "Maybe I can help you with something?" "No, thank you," I said politely. "Perhaps your shirts or pants need some fixing?" she asked. I felt embarrassed by her offer and told her firmly that I didn't need her help at all. She left. A week or two passed. It was evening, and I was sitting by my window, bored and trying to think of a way to distract myself. I didn't feel like going out because the weather was bad. So, out of boredom, I started thinking about myself and my life. It wasn't very interesting, but I didn't want to do anything else. Then, thankfully, someone came in through the door. "Oh, Mr. Student, I hope you're not too busy," Teresa said. No. "What do you need?" I replied. "I was wondering if you could write another letter for me." "Sure." "To Bowles, right?" "No, this time it's from him." "What?" I was surprised. Silly me. "It's not for me, Mr. Student, I'm sorry. It's for a friend of mine, or rather, not really a friend, just someone I know, a guy friend. He has a girlfriend just like me named Teresa. That's the situation. Can you write a letter to this Teresa?" Teresa explained. I looked at her, she seemed troubled, her fingers were shaking. At first, I was confused, but then I understood what was going on. "Listen, there are no Bowles or Teresas at all. You've been lying to me. Please don't come to me anymore. I don't want to be your friend. Do you understand?" I said firmly. Suddenly, she looked terrified and upset. She started moving around nervously, as if she wanted to say something but couldn't. I waited to see what would happen next, realizing I might have misunderstood her intentions. "Mr. Student," she began, then abruptly turned and left the room, slamming the door behind her. It was clear she was very angry. I thought about it and decided to go to her and offer to help her write whatever she needed. I went into her room and saw her sitting at the table, resting her head in her hands. "Listen to me," I said. "Every time I get to this part of the story, I feel really awkward and silly. Well, here goes. Listen to me," I repeated. She stood up and came towards me, her eyes flashing. She put her hands on my shoulders and started speaking, or rather humming, in her deep voice. "Listen, there's no Bowles or Teresa. But why does it matter to you? Is it so hard for you to write a letter? Huh? And you? Still acting like a little kid. There's nobody named Bowles or Teresa, just me. That's it. And I hope it helps you." "Excuse me," I said, completely surprised by her response. "What's going on? You're saying there's no Bowles?" "Nope, that's right." "And no Teresa either?" "That's correct. I'm Teresa." I couldn't understand what was happening. I stared at her, trying to figure out if one of us was losing our mind. But she went back to the table, looked for something, then returned to me with an annoyed expression. "If it was so hard for you to write to Bowles, here, take your letter back. Someone else will write for me," she said, holding out my letter to Bowles. Phew. "Listen, Teresa. What's going on here? Why do you need others to write for you when I've already written a letter, and you haven't sent it?" "Sent it where?" "To Bowles, obviously." "But there's no such person." I was completely baffled. I didn't know what to say. Then she explained. "What's the matter?" she said, still offended. There's no such person, I'm telling you, she said, gesturing as if she herself didn't understand why there should be no such person. But I wanted him to be. Am I not a human being like everyone else? Yes, yes, I know, of course. But I don't see any harm in writing to him. Excuse me, to who? To Bowles, of course. But he doesn't exist. Oh no. But what if he could? He may not exist now, but maybe he could. I write to him, and it feels like he's real. And Teresa, that's me, gets his replies, and then I write back to him. Finally, I understood. I felt sick, miserable, and ashamed. Right next to me, just a few yards away, lived someone who had no one to treat her kindly, affectionately. She had made up a friend for herself. See, you wrote me a letter as Bowles, and I had someone read it to me. When I listened, I imagined Bowles was really there. And then I asked you to write a letter from Bowles to Teresa, that's me. When they read me those letters, it feels like Bowles is with me. Life feels easier then. Wow, what a silly thing. I thought to myself. From then on, I wrote letters to Bowles twice a week, and answers from Bowles to Teresa. She listened to them and cried a lot, I mean, really cried with her deep voice. And in return for moving her with those letters from Bowles, she started fixing the holes in my socks, shirts, and other clothes. Eventually, about 3 months later, they put her in prison for something. She's probably dead by now. My friend flicked the ash from his cigarette, looked up at the sky thoughtfully, and finished. Well, the more someone tastes bitter things, the more they want the sweet things in life. We wrapped up in our good deeds, and thinking we're better than others, don't get this. The whole thing turns out to be pretty silly, and very mean. We talk about the fallen classes, but who are they, really? They're just like us, made of the same stuff. We've heard this for ages, but do we really get it? Or have we been fooled by all this talk about how great we are? Honestly, we're just as fallen, if not more. But that's enough. This has been going on forever, it's a shame to even talk about it. Very old indeed, yeah, that's what it is.